Welcome to Ray Presents. Today I have the privilege to sit down with Canadian basketball legend Osvaldo Jeanty. Thank you for being here with me, bro.
No problem at all. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. Let's start from the beginning. When did you when did you discover your love of basketball?
I discovered my love of basketball pretty early. I started playing when I was about 12 years old, 11 to 12 years old, and I was mainly playing in the parks. And I think I really started finding my competitiveness, my determination from just playing with my older brother and a good friend of his. They wouldn't let me play if I wasn't good enough. And that literally drove me insane. So I think that's when I started really being determined to prove that I can play with them at that level. I needed to be better. And that's when I just started practicing. I became obsessed with the game. I played in the rain. I was the kid to shovel the snow in the winter just to find a little gap that I can shoot and bounce a ball. So for me, it was really something that started pretty early, and it started really playing with my friends and my brother.
Okay, so would you say your brother is the key to unlocking that determination, that competitive juice that we know that you have, especially here in Ottawa? I mean, I had the privilege to watch you play over the years, and I have to say it's one of the most competitive person that I know, and it's been a privilege to watch you play.
Thank you.
When it comes to Canadian basketball, your name obviously is always associated with winning. I've had the privilege to watch you play. Can you tell me how hard you had to work to get to reach the level of success that you've achieved over the years?
Well, I've always prided myself in being the hardest working player out there, or hardest working person out there. I think that's what really defines me as a winner, trying to be more prepared than anybody else. But in terms of the level of work ethic, it's really hard to explain. People think that they work hard, and then, when they listen to how I got to where I was, they start understanding that they didn't really work as hard as they could possibly to achieve a goal. So I wasn't very athletic. I'm not the fastest guy. I'm not the tallest guy. But what I needed to be is the most skilled guy, the hardest working guy, the most competitive guy. And I didn't only do that physically, but I did that also mentally. So I studied the game all day, every day, watching basketball, whether it's watching NBA, watching WNBA, watching European basketball, watching people play, analyzing constantly. And it was a difficult time, right? My problem, probably one of my biggest weakness, was overworking. I remember the summer of going into university, my coach challenged me and said, you weren't that great of a shooter. And I said to myself that year that I would become the best shooter that he had ever seen. And so I dedicated being able to shoot 1,500 shots a day. And that would take me 1 hour in the morning at around 7 o'clock, 1 hour at 12 o'clock when kids went to camp, and they went to lunch. I would go in the gym, squeeze an hour in there. After they're done camp, I would squeeze an hour at 4:30 to about 5:30. And then I would do weights 5:30 to 6:30, 6:30 to 8:30. We would be scrimmaging every day. So for me, literally, I spent between my 3 hours of shooting and individual training to weight training for 1 hour, individual training for another hour, and 2 hours of scrimmaging. I spent literally close to 6 hours in the gym a day since probably 2001 to ending my career in 2013.
That's amazing. That's basically the key to success from what I understand. While some of us were sleeping, snoring, you were shooting jumpers and, got you to where you are today.
Exactly.
Well, speaking about the mental aspect that you mentioned, what were some strategies that you used during your playing days that, served you during, stressful or very intense competitive situations? What did you use?
That's a good question. And it's interesting because I always believed that preparation was the key, right? I never wanted to be lucky. I never wanted my opponents to have a bad day. I always wanted to see everybody's best. And the best way for me to always feel confident and always be able to handle stressful situations is by constantly putting myself through stressful situations when nobody was watching. So preparation for me was the key, and putting myself through stressful situations so that when I did come through adversity, it wasn't the first time. When I missed a shot, it wasn't the first time. When I missed 10 in a row, it wasn't the first time, because I knew that I had days in the summer where, I practiced six hours in that day, or close to 8 hours in that day. And then the next day I'm coming in the morning to shoot 500 shots. And I'm going, whew, my body's not feeling too well here. And, I had something that I was doing that's beat the pro. So it's +1, -2 every time you miss, right? So you make, it counts for 1, -2 if you miss. And I would come into the gym, and there's some days I wouldn't give myself a cap, right? Some people would say, okay, at -10, you start at 0. But I would miss a few shots, and I'd be at -20 and -25. And I'm looking at myself and going, all right, well, do you quit? Or now that you've missed, whatever amount of shots, you got to essentially make 25 in a row, right? Mm-hmm. So dealing with adversity, knowing that I was down 25, and I put myself in a stressful situation where now the only way that I can get out of the gym is by making 25 and making my 10 again. I always knew that in game situation, there was nothing really that fazed me. I knew that if I missed 10, I could easily make 10 or 15, right? And change my percentages. So I knew that my percentages that I try to, my guideline or my benchmark was knowing that I could make 80% of my shots when I was practicing. So when I came into a game, anytime I missed, I went 0 for 2, 0 for 5, 0 for 10, whatever it was, I knew that I was at least a 50% with people challenging me. So I knew that no matter what, through time, that the percentage would even out, and I was confident in that. And what gave me the confidence was the fact that I was prepared. And I think I approached that, my life, the same exact way, whether it's work, whether it was school. I never went into an exam underprepared. I went to an exam overprepared. And if the teacher just so happened to make it an easy exam, I was like, oh, great. Well, I overprepared. I never felt bad about overpreparing. I would feel worse if I came into an exam going like, all right, well, I read, 5 chapters but out of 8, and I'm hoping that the teacher, that those 3 chapters that I didn't study, those are the ones that they don't ask, right? I never approached it that way. I really approached it of, let me read everything, every single detail. And if the teacher ends up not touching on that, then great. Well, at least
prepare for it.
I know that I had everything prepared and I was ready. So I kind of approach the same thing that way. And that's what gives me the confidence and the ability to handle stress, because I know that I've prepared and I've done everything that I could.
That's amazing. One thing I really appreciate about you is you seem to be very close to the basketball community here in the Ottawa region. How important is mentorship to you?
It's very important, just for the simple fact that I know, for me, there's a lot of kids that need that encouragement of understanding that you could still make it and you could still be successful and look like me. You don't have to be the most athletic. You don't have to be the tallest. You don't have to be the strongest. You don't have to be the fastest. But if you put in work with your skill, your ball handling, the understanding for the game, you're constantly in the weight room. You outwork people. My coach had this great analogy of it all, and I held it for kind of the rest of my life. He's like, who wins the game to infinity? And I'll never forget that, because the game to infinity is not about necessarily your score or time. It's about who's going to end up giving up first and who's going to end up quitting. And I always said to myself, there's no way that anybody is going to quit. I'm going to quit before anybody. You know, if we play a game, they're going to quit first and I'm going to win the game to infinity. So for me, mentorship was just something that I just love doing, because I think, you know, watching the kids grow up, you know, when they're young, they're struggling, and you see them all of a sudden, you know, playing in the NBA, playing NCAA, having success in Europe, and knowing that when they're where they came from, there's a certain satisfaction in that for me, knowing that I was able to give back and help those kids achieve what I've gone through.
Yeah, it's definitely special to see this camaraderie that seems to be existing here in Ottawa when it comes to basketball. We see a lot of successful players coming out of this region and doing wonderful things overseas, and some in the NBA. Is there something during your career that you wish you would have done differently, or a different move, you know, in hindsight, despite all the success that we see, you know, is there one thing that you know what, I could have done this?
You know, it's interesting because I try never to live with regrets, because I would never be where I am without those experiences and the difficulty.
But is there a turn you wish you would have? I should have turned right on this one.
You know what? Like, there's a couple of things that I do regret. You know, like like I said, I don't like to live with regrets, but there's a couple of things that if I could go back and say, you know, maybe I would have tried this, and maybe that would have given me something different. Number one, of course, I probably would have left school earlier. Like, I wouldn't have done a fifth year of university. I would have left school earlier to go play pro. I just felt at that point in time I needed to finish something. You know, it hadn't been accomplished for a very, very, very long time to win 5 in a row. I had said to myself that coming in, that was my goal, and I wanted to finish the goal that I started, right? Or I wanted to accomplish it, finish what I started.
I have to say, I was a witness to that. I remember, I don't know if you remember, but I was told, Osvaldo said he's going to win 5 consecutive championships. And I was like, this is not going to happen. I was one of those haters. Yes. And you did it, and it's beautiful. That was proven wrong. And, you know, congratulations for that. Because I think, like I said earlier, you and your group, your teammates, set the tone for, I think, Canadian basketball. Right? And right now, you still see the success right now at Carleton. It's the history of winning, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, like it's just having a thin line, right? There's a thin line between, like I said, probably one of my biggest weaknesses was overwork. So I was riddled with injuries, and I played through absolutely everything, right? So my rule was, if it wasn't broken, if it wasn't torn, I was playing, and there was nothing that anybody could do about that. And when I think about it now, just trying to be smarter about everything that I do, how I took care of my body, you know, those are things that I regret, because I feel like I should have taken care of my body, maybe taken some rest a little bit more, because now those kids have so many tools that can help them, you know, to have that good balance between, you know, taking care of your body and overtraining, right? So overtraining and taking care of your body, I feel like that's something I regret a little bit.
Are we talking about those regrets was mostly through your university days, or at the professional?
Always, right?
Always,
I was that kid that had a hard time taking, you know, even a 1 week of vacation. You know, I was that kid that really had that difficulty, because I was like, if I take 1 week of vacation, you know, somebody's going to be getting better than me. You know, somebody's out there is outworking me. And I didn't want that to happen. So I always had that pressure and that stress in the back of my mind that I couldn't take time off. And at the end of the day, I needed to find a better balance between, you know, overworking myself in injuries, and at the same time, you know, practicing enough where I feel comfortable in that preparation, right? So that preparation that I talked about was one of my strengths, but also it was probably my biggest weakness, which is pretty much everything in life, right? Something can be your biggest strength or your biggest weakness. Finding a balance between the two is what makes it important and what makes it ideal.
Okay. Also, I want you to tell me about what you think the biggest challenge is for players today. So young player, university, what's their challenges?
I think the biggest challenge right now is social media. I think the biggest thing right now is social media, right? Again, it's what's improved the game at the same time, but it's what's hurt the game at the same time, right? It's finding that balance. And it's being able to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, I think not enough kids these days really look at themselves in the mirror and are honest with each other, themselves. Because they look at it and they go, everybody's going to be telling you how good you are, right? Like, back when I was playing, for Coach K, Coach Calipari, all of these guys to come and see you play in Little Ottawa was almost impossible, right? But with all these scouting services, like, your name is out there. You're out there. There's rankings. And some kids just feel like they've already accomplished, And I'm like, you guys haven't accomplished anything yet. You have to stay humble. You have to keep on working hard. And you have to, shut out the hype. And once you shut out the hype and just, have tunnel vision, keep on working to achieve your goal, get to the NBA and stop thinking about like, at 15, 16, I'm top 10 in ranking. And all of a sudden in your mind, you go, I've made it. Because once you start getting that mentality, that complacency, and you don't have that humbleness anymore, that's where you start, just being stagnant. And then other people that have that hunger just keep on going above you, right?
Above you. You think it would have been easier for you at Oz in 2022 to play this game with the social media aspect of it? Because there's a lot. It's very distracting.
Yeah, I think it would have been pretty. It's hard to say. I think it would have been easier. I think that generation is more skilled, but I think it would have been easier for me, right? The way my mentality is, the way that that I've achieved my success. Bringing that type of mentality, that type of work ethic in this generation, it's not seen very, very often, right? And I think I would have had a pretty high level of success, basketball-wise. Social media, I wasn't really big on social media anyways. So, I always kind of let my game speak for myself, right? Or only for itself, right? I wasn't the person to hype myself up. I was more somebody, all right, well, you can talk all you want. We would play Toronto guys, we would play Montreal guys, and, I would hear the hype about certain guys, and I would be like, oh, this is great. They don't know me. I'm coming from little, small Sammy G. Carleton that's never won a championship before. I'm seeing St. FX guys, celebrate Western guys, Laval guys, and all these teams that are supposedly better. And I'm coming in being like, all right, I'm going to take your heart out, right? And it's that's the type of mentality that I carried through. And, I think that mentality can still carry through and have success in this era as well.
That's right. So I know you're still playing a little bit. Can you tell me about that? I know you recently did a 3-on-3 tournament.
Yeah.
So tell me how you feel, because I know you had the knee injury. Can you tell me how you feel right now, and if it's
I feel.
Is it safe for a
I feel great. I love the game. I love playing, so I always try to keep myself in pretty good shape to be able to play. I always said the only reason that I wouldn't be playing is when I can't shoot the three anymore. I am definitely slower, but I am smarter than I used to be. I use my moves a little bit more efficiently, knowing that I'm slower and my angles and stuff like that. But it's nice to have played with the young guys and compete at that level and still be able to compete at that level and have a decent amount of success. And, it's something that I look forward to doing and I enjoy it. It's just the recovery time, right? The recovery time is is the hardest part, where I was telling you I was shooting 1,500 shots a day and literally playing 6 to 8 hours a day. And I had no problem doing that every day. And now it's like after playing, I need a good week and a half of just stretching and ice tub and all that stuff to just get back feeling well.
It's funny. I remember when you retired, the first thing I told you is like, Father Time is real.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is, but obviously you're in better shape than most of us old guys. So listen, what do you see? Let's go back to the Ottawa region. Where do you see the growth of basketball in Ottawa? Do you see it continuing to that level of success that you started at Carleton?
Oh yeah, I think it continues, and as you can see, Carleton, Ottawa U, Algonquin, they're always part of the top 10, and they've had so much success, and so many athletes at those schools have been able to have success. Guys like Johnny Berhani Mascal, you have Philip Scrub, you have Tommy Scrub, you have Aaron Dornekamp that's still playing, you have Caleb Agada that's doing pretty well from Ottawa U, right? So you have a whole bunch of guys that actually have gone and played pro, right? You have guys like Gary Gallimore that went to St. FX, right? People underestimate how good that guy really was, right? He went to Woodruff. People underestimate how good he was. Like, he's easily one of my favorite players in terms of, you want to talk about that meanness, taking your heart out, competitiveness, and he had the athleticism on top of that, right? He was just a mean human being. And when he played,
I think it's a family thing. It's a family. I think, if I'm not mistaken, his brother Neville plays in the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys. Right. So look into the shout out to the Gallimore.
Yeah, for sure. And there's, like I said, there's so much talent here, right? There's so much talent, even in the Gatineau area as well, right? A lot of the kids are playing in the States, and now you have the new generation, like guys like Binyam that are doing well, and guys like Alain that went to Carleton that are doing well. Keza's playing pro in Europe as well. So there's so many guys. Guillaume is Payen Bukar, he's playing as well. So there's so many guys still enjoying the game. And I really believe that Ottawa basketball is special. What I would love to see in Ottawa basketball is for us to be able to keep our talent. A lot of the time, once you start getting really, really good, Ottawa becomes too small of a market. And
too small.
And, most guys are going to Toronto, right? Your guys like AJ, he's going to Toronto, right? All those guys. I wish that we could just keep some of those guys here and build around that. And they decide to, have the Ottawa team and kind of have that pride in saying, we're coming from Ottawa and we don't need to all be in Toronto. We don't need to all be in Montreal. We can have the same level of success here.
So what does it take? What do we need to do in order to fix that issue?
Yeah, it's hard because there's so much hype, right? Like when people, I don't even think people know that Ottawa's the capital of Canada, right? I feel like people, anytime you talk to them about basketball, anytime you talk about Canada, they automatically think Toronto, right? It's just a bigger city.
It's the way it is.
More hype, there's a lot more ethnicities too, right? So there's a lot of immigration there. There's a lot of people that are going to Toronto. So you have a big pool of talent. Like the GTA is huge. So you have a big pool of talent, and those guys are coming out. So Ottawa is still seen as a small market. So like I said, I think the way to do it is to be able to keep our talent here. If we're able to keep our talent here for a few years, and that we can kind of have some success, and now the hype comes to Ottawa, where a lot of the talented kids are staying, instead of somewhere in Toronto, somewhere in Vancouver, somewhere in Montreal. Now the base of kids, you don't have the same base, right? So. I think just finding a way to keep them there. Hopefully we find a group of guys, a group of kids that love playing with each other and that want to stay with each other, and then you go from there.
They want to commit to the city.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? It's a good problem to have. I keep it positive. It's, there's talent here, and hopefully they do stay and, continue your legacy, basically, from great success at Carleton and overseas. Last question I have for you, Oz, is, what would you, let's say you're a young Osvaldo Jeanty in 2022, you're 16, 17 years old. What would you tell yourself before making it to the next?
Stay humble. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Stay confident. And surround yourself with the right people. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay confident, and surround yourself with the right people, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to give you advice. Everybody knows basketball. You go to a barbershop and you're just like, I hear those talks sometimes, and I just kind of stay on the corner like, I hope that nobody recognizes me, that that they don't know that I literally coach or played basketball or anything like that. You hear how many people are now experts at basketball, and that's the scariest thing as a kid, right? Because everybody's giving you advice. Everybody's telling you, hey, coach should be playing you more. Hey, you should shoot more shots. Hey, you should shoot this type of shot. So you have to find the people that you trust. Surround yourself the people that love you, that care about you, and that have your best interest in mind. Once you have those people around you, you have a better chance for success, because you'll be listening to the right people. You'll be given the right information. And they're going to be with you every step of the way. And then the humility part is absolutely the most important thing, right? You stay humble and you don't get complacent. Then when you're at the bottom, you're working your hardest to chase somebody at the top. But when you're at the top and you feel like you're at the bottom, you work the same way, then nobody ever catches you, right? And that's what really makes you irreplaceable. I tell my kids this stuff all the time when I coach them. I'm like, everybody is replaceable. Kevin Durant is replaceable. Kyrie Irving is replaceable, right? There's never going to be the same exact person, but they're replaceable in terms of being able to have success without them. But what really truly makes a player irreplaceable is a talented player, or essentially a replaceable player, that has the mentality of an irreplaceable player that have the mentality of a replaceable player. If you're the number one talent on your team, but you behave and you act and you work like you're the 50th talent on your team, you rebound, you defend, you hustle, you work hard, you're a good team guy, you listen to your coach, and on top of that, you're the most skilled, you're the biggest, you're the most athletic, then you become actually truly irreplaceable. But you got to have that mentality that you're replaceable and that you work like you're the 15th guy and you're trying to make the team.
Hey, here you go. You heard it on Ray Presents from the coach, Canadian basketball legend, Osvaldo Jeanty. Thanks again for doing this. We appreciate you. Thank you for the great memories that we had here in the region. And we hope that we wish you continued success.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.